Fasten your seatbelt. I am taking you for the ride of your life. I'm going to show you what this car can really do. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Hang on.
Okay.
Here we go.
Hold on to your butts.
Go get him, kid.
It might be a tumor.
It's not a tumor. Not a tumor at all.
As if you're going to ask me. So you can go ahead and ask me what you're going to ask me. And my natural response could be to get offended.
Hey, want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
All right.
You're listening to the 30-something movie podcast. One movie each week, 30 years in the making. Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to episode number 288. It is the 30-something movie podcast. You would think that I just downed an energy drink, but I have not. I'm just excited to be here.
That's awesome, John. You're bringing it.
It was a long weekend. We didn't have to go to work. This weekend is probably my favorite. I'll get into that in a minute. This is probably one of my favorite weekends of the year, just because of the fun family tradition that we've got going once a year for this thing that we go to. So I'm going to talk about that here in just a minute. But all
right.
But yeah, it's I actually feel like I got a chance to rest for a little bit. I turned off the work email on my phone, so for all I know, we can get back into work tomorrow, and the place is burned to the ground. And I have no idea. And you know what? I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with that too, John.
I will deal with that issue if that comes up tomorrow morning.
There it is.
So that's where we are. So as you can already hear, of course, my name is John Reed. I am the host of the 30-something movie podcast, and I have with me, as always, I don't want to call you the old standbys, because you're not the old standbys. You guys are, what do I call you? It's not like old faithful. It's not like my partners in crime. Should we do it that way? Partners in crime?
Sure. The erstwhile companions.
No, here we go. Erstwhile companions. That's a good one too. Co-pilots. Can we be co-pilots?
I do like that. I do like the sound of that. Yeah.
I think especially for this month, it's probably got to be co-pilots.
Sure, be co-pilots.
Yeah, co-pilots. Okay. So my co-pilots, at least, for this month, we're co-pilots. I do have with me Pat Canigallo, Bo Warmbold. Pat, how are you doing?
Doing great, John. How are you?
I'm good. I'm ready to talk some movies.
That sounds good. Yeah, we survived the lovey-dovey month, and now we're into some fun movies.
Tell us how you really feel.
No, and they were some good movies. I mean, seriously, they were great movies.
Oh, I know. I'm just messing with you because I can't.
I know, and I don't want to be like making fun of, knocking those movies. No, well, there was the one that was weird, but anyways, we're into planes, and that's what I'm saying.
And Bo, the Love Fest Warmbold, how are you doing?
I'm doing quite well, John. Thank you very much.
Excellent.
And you?
I'm good. I'm all good.
Excellent.
I had a great weekend, which I'm going to talk about right now. So this weekend was
I was going to say, what did you do this weekend?
I know. This was our kind of annual family tradition. We go to C2E2, which for those who are not up on the lingo, all the kids are talking about it. Those who are not up on the lingo, C2E2 is the Chicago Chicago Comic and Entertainment Expo. So 2 C's, 2 E's, C2E2. And basically it's a giant comic book show. I don't know how it compares with New York. I know New York has a pretty big one. I know there's some other big ones. Yeah, I don't know. There were some big ones that are in Atlanta. Obviously San Diego Comic-Con is the biggest. And I was trying to figure out, I've only ever gone to C2E2 and maybe some smaller shows here and there. So I was trying to find out this weekend, how does this compare to San Diego? And apparently San Diego is like 5 times bigger and crazier and more crowded than C2E2, to which I just say, thank you very much. I will stay in the Midwest and yeah. I'm good where I am. Thank you. Because already that's the only thing the only downside to this show is particularly on Saturday. That's the day that it's busiest, and it can get a little, if you're a little claustrophobic, sometimes it's a little tough to get through some of those aisles and, look at stuff you want to look at and not feel like you're being crushed on all sides like a trash compactor in the Death Star. But it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. Like I go the whole weekend. I go every day, and I typically go Friday by myself, just so I have that one day to, go do whatever stuff I want to do. And then in the last few years, I've alternated taking one of the kids on Saturday with me. Tend to also go with my sibling and his wife, and and then we take the whole family on Sunday, and the whole family includes my sibling, my sister-in-law, my kids, my wife, and my mother-in-law. So we have a big crowd of people that go with us, and I have convinced them in the last few years to all dress up. So we do go in costume. It's a good time. I will say that my mother-in-law, she's a really good sport about it. We all typically tend to go on that Sunday as either Star Wars characters or something like that. And without fail, she is always a Starfleet officer.
Well, there you go.
So, which is even funnier when we walk through the Star Wars section of the show. The Darth Vader and the Stormtroopers and all those guys in costume tend to give her kind of funny looks sometimes. But this time around it was hilarious. She went to go have her picture taken with a Darth Vader and a Stormtrooper in, all these costumes. Of course, some of these people just spend ridiculous amounts of money on these costumes, and they look like they're straight out of the movies. And she went to go have her picture taken with a Darth Vader and a Stormtrooper, and the Darth Vader made the Vulcan salute with his hand.
Oh, cool.
So we have a great picture of her as the Starfleet officer standing in between Darth Vader and a Stormtrooper, with Darth Vader giving the live long and prosper salute.
That's pretty cool.
So it was a good time. I went first day I didn't dress up at all. Second day I went in my Rocketeer costume.
Zaraka who?
Goodness sake, do you not read the papers? I went as a Rocketeer, and Lord knows I spent enough on that costume. I'm going to get some mileage out of it, and did that on kind of the first half of Saturday, because it gets a little toasty in that costume after a while. And then Sunday we all went, and I was Return of the Jedi Luke, so I had the black costume on. John was kind of a Kylo Ren. I think he got tired of wearing his mask, so he just kind of turned into a Star Wars fan that was wearing all black halfway through the day. And he bought a Mandalorian t-shirt, so that kind of ended up going over his costume. And Nora was the Mandalorian, so we had fixed up a Nerf gun to look like the Mandalorian's rifle, and she had a black costume on with we had kind of painted on with some glittery paint the silver parts of his armor.
Very cool.
And then she had kind of like an iridescent purple cape that she was wearing, and had a Mandalorian mask that she wore. And then Sharon was the librarian from the Jedi Librarian from episode 2. And so that was probably one of the parts I was happiest about, was that then gave me an excuse to buy Sharon a lightsaber. So I did have to go buy her a lightsaber. We now have matching lightsabers. So the circle is now complete.
If I may ask, are you blue lightsaber? Are you blue lightsaber people, or are you green lightsaber people?
Well, okay, so here's how this works. The very first lightsaber I ever owned was a replica of Obi-Wan Kenobi's lightsaber, so it's blue. And then I did purchase another one last year, and it was green, because that was to kind of go along with my Return of the Jedi Luke Skywalker costume. And then Sharon wanted a blue one, because that's the color you don't see it in the movies, but in the comics, the librarian has a blue lightsaber.
Okay.
So got her a blue one. And then I really liked the design of her lightsaber. That model didn't exist when I bought mine a year ago.
Okay.
So I got a little jealous of her blue lightsaber that looked really, really cool. And so I decided to then go buy myself a second one.
Okay.
And so I got a new one as well. So I do have a green one. I have a blue one that is not working so great anymore. I have a green one that works just fine. And the new one that I bought is actually an orange one.
Oh.
So it looks pretty nice, especially when you got the two of us together. We can either go bears or Illini colors if we want to with the blue and the orange. But the funny thing is, both of our wedding rings, we have matching wedding rings with a gold and silver design, and both of our lightsaber handles are both kind of a gold and silver design. So it actually looks like we got the lightsabers to match our wedding rings.
Well, that's fun.
Well, depending on which circles you run in, you can say, of course we did, or hey, that's just a coincidence.
That's the story I'm going to tell from now on, is that lightsabers were intended to match our wedding rings.
Right.
So yeah, so we're all very happy with our lightsabers, and it was great. Sharon got stopped several times because people were like, "Oh, you're the Jedi Librarian. I've never seen anybody dress up as the Jedi Librarian before." So she got stopped several times and asked if people could take their picture with her, and Yeah, so she had a lot of fun.
Wow, that's awesome. That's great.
She had a great pose too. She had it all worked out. She was going to hold up her lightsaber, turn on the lightsaber, hold it up, and then she was going to put her finger to her lips and just go shh.
Pretty cool stuff, man.
Because, when you're a librarian, that's what you do. So we had a great
awesome.
time. Had a great time.
Between her having a one-of-a-kind costume that no one's ever seen, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And between her,
it was really cool.
What was it, 2 years ago or last year? She asked for the Porgacorn from the artist guy. Your family's making a mark on the C2E2 thing.
Well, see, and that was the funny thing is that Nora asked for that sketch. I think it was about 2 years ago now. The Porgacorn, the unicorn porg. And so we saw that same guy at the show, and we were flipping through his artwork, and he's actually done a new version of the Porgacorn. And we looked at that one and we kind of chuckled, and the guy goes, yeah, actually, it's really funny. I kind of did this sketch based off of a character that a little girl asked me to do on a free comic book day when I was at a comic book store in Libertyville, Illinois. And based on the sketch I did for her, like other people saw me do that sketch, and then it just got real popular and people started to ask for it. So I made a print and now I sell them at the shows. And I laughed and I said, well, actually, that was my daughter. And he goes, you're kidding me. And I said, yeah, no, it was at Dreamland Comics in Libertyville. And we came in and she wanted a cross between a porg and a unicorn. And I said, yeah, she's going to be here on Sunday. So she actually bought I think she bought a copy of that print when she came on Sunday. And, he thought that was the greatest thing in the world that she was showing up at the show to see the other sketch that he had come up with.
Cool.
Porgacorn, that's awesome.
It's good stuff.
Yes.
It's good stuff. We actually tweeted it one time, and I think, I don't remember if he just commented or if he retweeted it, but Mark Hamill saw it and either retweeted it or commented on it, either one. And so Nora, just at the time, she went nuts for the fact that Luke Skywalker saw her Porgacorn sketch.
That's so cool.
Hey, I respect the excitement there.
Mm-hmm.
I get it.
I got just as excited when I bought my my 6-inch action figure of old Luke Skywalker from The Last Jedi. I bought that action figure. I took a picture of it and I tweeted it, and I included Mark Hamill on the tweet. And I said, I'm really excited to finally get my Heroes of the Bible action figure of Moses that I never had as a kid. and he did like and retweet that one too. So I was very excited about that.
That's awesome.
Nice.
But so that was our weekend. So it was a good weekend. We always have a lot of fun with that. I always try to pick up some. I kind of try to collect artwork from some of the different artists, and lately I've actually done commissions where I actually pay them to do an original drawing for me or a painting or something like that. And so I've got quite a collection going of Rocketeer art commissions that I've had them do for me. So got another one or two of those this year. So it's all good stuff, and tend to find things you'd never find anywhere else. There's a big selection of stuff to choose from, so we always have a good time.
Very cool.
We're always very exhausted when it's over, but it's always a good time. So you know what, in terms of, before we get going with our other stuff, the only other thing that I had in terms of news for us is, I don't know if you gentlemen saw this or not. I think I texted you a little while ago. Did you happen to see that James Lipton passed away?
Yeah, it's sad.
That is too bad when you start to see those guys start to pass. I agree.
So that was, so I remember watching his, my favorite episode of his, and I don't know if you guys remember specific episodes of it, but when he did the Inside the Actors Studio, my favorite one was Robin Williams, because that was awesome. And he, as a host, I think it takes an extra special set of skills to be able to interview someone like Robin Williams.
Oh yeah, because he's just all over the freaking place.
Oh, absolutely! It's like giving a squirrel like a mountain of pixie sticks and then having it sit down for an interview.
Mm-hmm.
That was my favorite. That's probably my favorite episode of the Inside the Actors Studio. But yeah, that one was a lot of fun. Do you guys have any in particular that you remember seeing?
I don't have any in particular that I remember, but it's I just remember always being able to turn it on and enjoy watching it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was just always, oh, hey, check this out. This is, and just always getting sucked in. And the interviews were always so good that it really didn't matter what I was watching.
Yeah, I would agree. You always knew, even if it was somebody you didn't really care for, you were going to learn something very interesting.
All right. Well, before we jump into Air America, because this time around, I don't know if I said that yet or not, but it's episode number 288. We're talking Air America this time around. Very quickly, we spoil the movies we talk about, so we spoil freely, so be warned. We also, Bo, I think you mentioned one time, we can spoil expensively too. So whatever your
darn right,
whatever your tastes are, we are here for whatever it is you want. iTunes reviews, please leave us a 5-star iTunes review. We would absolutely love that. And then visit our website, 30podcast. That's 30 and the word podcast.com. That has all the different ways, all of our old episodes, different ways to reach out to us, the voicemail line, all kinds of other stuff there. So head on over to our website, check it out there. It's some good stuff. So before we jump into the movie itself, this is the first episode of the month. I've got comic books on the brain from this show. I almost said this is the first issue of the month. I'm sure there will be many issues this month, but this is the first episode this month. So we are going to be doing our This Month in 90 little segment that we do sometimes at the beginning of the month. So let's jump back in the DeLorean. We'll go back in time to this month. So March 1990. And there was some stuff going on here and there in March of 1990, but I selected a few things here and there. I will admit, and maybe this is just me, but I will admit I didn't recognize too many of the names when I went to go look for births and deaths for March of 1990. So I don't really have anything for that, but I've got a couple things for news items and books, movies, and songs. So we'll throw all that stuff out there and we'll throw it in the stew and cook it up and see what happens. All right. So in top news, on March 15th, Mikhail Gorbachev is elected as the first executive president of the Soviet Union. Also on the election front of things, because who doesn't love continuing to hear about elections all the time? March 18th, East Germany holds its first free elections. Let's see. Last thing I've got here, and I'm going to kind of put this in the news/sports area. On March 3rd, I believe it was the first time ever the Nintendo World Championships took place.
Crazy.
So I remember hearing about that as a kid and thinking, wait a minute. You mean to tell me that there is a competition in which you can play video games and win prizes? And it's not just in the movie The Wizard?
That's a thing. It's actually a thing.
I remember, and it probably was reported pretty regularly in this, my aunt used to work at Toys R Us when I was a kid growing up, which is like the best place ever for an aunt to be working.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah. And she used to get me free subscriptions to Game Pro magazine. I don't know if you guys ever read Game Pro.
Oh, yeah.
Remember Game Pro
back in the day? I every once in a while I get like a year subscription to Nintendo Power, but I always kind of like Game Pro a little bit better. And I think I remember some of the stuff about the Nintendo World Championships being reported on in the Game Pro magazine. So I remember kind of keeping up with that at the time.
Cool.
Top books in March of 1990: Oh, the Places You'll Go by Dr. Seuss,
Good.
Devices and Desires by P.D. James, and The Bourne Ultimatum by Robert Ludlum.
Oh, crazy.
Top movies for March of 1990. For the first 3 weeks of March of 1990, it was The Hunt for Red October, and the last week of March, it was Pretty Woman.
Okay.
One ping only, please.
Top songs were Escapade by Janet Jackson and Black Velvet by Alana Miles. And I have to admit, I don't think I would, if you played either of those songs, I'm not sure I would know them.
You'd know Black Velvet.
I would know Black Velvet?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Trust me.
Okay. Maybe I'll find a little clip of it and drop it in right here, and then I'll just go, and then here, we'll do this. I'll pause for a second, and I'll say, oh, yeah, that one.
I would be honestly shocked.
Okay.
So Black Velvet, and then what was the other one?
Escapade by Janet Jackson.
All right, I'm going to put these
I
on the
think
YouTube.
Honestly, you might know that one too. I do.
Maybe.
I can call them
Do
up
you?
in my head.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, you'll have to text me and let me know if you did know them.
Oh,
'Cause
that's the song. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
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 I got a
everybody-
hunch. At least one of those, if not both.
You could pretend right now that I'm going to do some creative editing, which I'm not going to do. And we can all just right now be like, oh, that one. Yeah.
You gonna count it down?
Oh, that's right.
Oh, yeah.
it's-
Escapade, of course.
Oh, Janet Jackson. Okay.
That's good.
I thought you meant Samuel Jackson. I got confused.
No, that is a totally different song.
I'll start saying, oh, Black Escapade. Yeah, that one's great. I love that one.
Which could also be Sam Jackson.
Right.
Okay, what was it called? Black
Velvet Escapade.
Black Velvet.
Yes, there you go.
Black Velvet. Okay.
Velvet Jones. It's by Velvet Jones.
All right. We're going to get in trouble now. Oh, man.
So you want to be... No, okay.
So you want to get fired? No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, boy.
You can buy my new book. All right. I think we're ready to talk a little bit of Air America here. Are you guys ready?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. All right. The movie this time around is called Air America. It came out on the 10th of August, 1990, rated R, with a runtime of 1 hour and 53 minutes, directed by Roger Spottiswoode, who sounds very British.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very British name.
Yes.
Roger Spottiswoode. Yes. It sounds like he should be in like a James Bond movie, like some kind of like Working with M or something like that. He did 48 Hours, Turner and Hooch, and Shoot to Kill. Producers on this one, producer was Daniel Melnick, who died in 2009. He also did Altered States and Blue Streak. Writers on this one were Christopher Robbins. Oh, Christopher Robbins.
Oh, wow. All right.
Well, he died in 2012, so Pooh Bear couldn't help him. That's it's a completely different person. Just like how Sam Jackson and Janet Jackson are not related, apparently. Robbins, the only thing he did was the book for Air America. He did something else, but not anything that got turned into a movie, I don't believe. John Escow did the screenplay. Richard Rush also did the screenplay. Escow did The Mask of Zorro and Pink Cadillac, and Rush did a movie called The Stuntman. Cinematography was done by Roger Deakins, who did Fargo, Skyfall, and 1917. I don't think we've talked since we've both seen this movie, and Bo, I don't know if you've seen it yet or not. How good was 1917? Pat, I know you saw it.
Yeah, I saw it. Wait, I missed it. Were you asking Bo how good 1917? Or was that
No,
Bo hasn't
seen it.
I understand.
I'm asking you, how good was 1917?
And Bo hasn't seen it. Okay.
No.
I'm non-spoilers. I thought it was incredible. Yeah. I was really taken by that movie. I saw, and I'm not going to, well, one's a pseudo spoiler, but if you know the way they did the camera, have you heard about how they filmed it, Bo?
Yes.
Okay. That I thought was going to be kind of like a gimmick type thing, or, I'm an idiot. I'm not going to notice that camera angle stuff. And then it was like, wow, that really added a lot to the story. I mean, I felt that really brought me into the story. And then with keeping it spoiler free, that movie kind of had stuff that I had not really seen in a movie before. And it was quite a story. I really, really, really enjoyed seeing that film.
You know what? I'm going to spoil it. We win.
Yeah.
We win the war.
Well, do we? Yes, we do.
I mean,
but
yes, we do.
But
I guess that's that's the sequel though. That's 1918.
That's yeah. And then the way that we win the war is 1990. Okay. But the point is, I mean, but even that, I mean, well, and I'm getting into spoiler territory. I have to discuss with you, boy. I don't want to give anything away, but
no, don't worry. I do not worry.
Okay. I just the movie's it almost ends with a question mark. I'll leave it that way. I'm trying to be vague. But do you know what I'm talking about, John?
Yeah.
I have to admit, I don't know. I haven't checked to see what the run is like in theaters, but the way I get to movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Excuse me. The way I get to movies, I might not see it till it's available on Netflix or Comcast. So
okay. No, but I like I said, there was a lot in that movie that is there to unpack and discuss and all that.
And I joke about us winning the war because, historically we did. But,
right. No, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, but in this movie, without spoiling anything, in this movie, it doesn't really matter. The movie's not about that.
Yeah.
The movie is about this one very specific instance in the war. So it's almost like, I mean, the war itself is the backdrop to what's going on. And the rest of it is just this very human, very like almost laser focus on this small group of people that are having to accomplish this task. And
well, and it's
it was great,
and it was almost like a tour through the World War I battlefield. Yes. I mean, you kind of saw a little bit of everything, and it's funny because like you said, it doesn't matter. And again, I'm being very careful, but that's almost kind of what the sentiment was at the end. If do you know what I'm kind of referring to?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna shut up because I'm gonna start messing things up. But I mean, spoiling things. But yeah, just so many thought-provoking points throughout that movie. So yes, 1917. I'll give it 3 thumbs up. I'm gonna borrow someone's hand and make it in the form of a thumb, so I can do 3 thumbs up.
No, that's not creepy at all.
No.
All right. Well, speaking of gross things, music was done by Charles Gross, who also did Turner and Hooch and Threshold. The budget was $35 million. The box office was $57.7 million. So this will be kind of interesting to talk about. So Air America, again, this is the one we're talking about. Reviews for this one, Rotten Tomatoes critics give it a 13%.
Mm-hmm.
Rotten Tomatoes audience gives it a 35%.
Mm-hmm.
IMDb gives it a 58, Letterboxd a 54, and CinemaScore gives it a B. So
kind of all over the place.
It's a little bit like a Sesame Street. One of these things is not like the other. The B obviously on CinemaScore is quite a bit higher than all the other scores. So I'll be curious to see what you gentlemen thought of this movie. But let's jump in and let's give you the playbill here, so you know who was there and what they were playing. We got Mel Gibson, who played Gene. He was in the Lethal Weapon movies and Braveheart. Robert Downey Jr. played Billy. He was in Back to School, Less Than Zero, and these little things called Iron Man and the Avengers movies. I don't know what that. I think the Avengers, wasn't that British one with Uma Thurman?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so he was in there somewhere, probably as a cameo. Nancy Travis played Corinne Landreau. She was in 3 Men and a Little Lady, and So I Married an Axe Murderer. Ken Jenkins was Major Donald Lamond. He was in Last Man Standing and The Sum of All Fears. David Marshall Grant played Rob Deal. He was in Forever Young in the 2004 version of The Stepford Wives. Lane Smith, who died in 2005, was Senator Davenport. He was in My Cousin Vinny, Red Dawn, and the TV series Lois and Clark. Art LaFleur played Jack Neely. He was in The Sandlot, Cobra, and Field of Dreams. Ned Eisenberg played Pirelli. He was in Limitless and Last Man Standing. Marshall Bell played O.V. He was in Starship Troopers, Total Recall, and Stand By Me. David Bowe played Saunders. He was in the Cable Guy. He was in The Rock, and he was in UHF. And Bert Kwok, I'm not sure how we're going to say that one. It died in 2016. He was General Lu Sung, and he was in Goldfinger, Kiss of the Dragon, and Revenge of the Pink Panther. Here is the trailer, and we'll be back here in just a moment.
As far as American manpower, there are no American combat troops in Laos.
See, I put us here, but the map doesn't show a town here.
Well, then I guess we're not actually here. And we don't really run 400 flights a day out of here. Or ship 100 tons of cargo, medicines, weapons.
Why are they shooting at us? Because they're unfriendly. Why is everyone so unfriendly? Well, they haven't got to know us yet. I don't want to crash twice in one day. Don't worry. I crash better than anyone I know.
Why don't you go first?
No, I don't want to go first.
Okay, I'll go first.
No, I don't want to go second.
All right,
we'll toss the coin. Tails.
It's heads, isn't it?
That's tails.
No, I'll take it.
Mel Gibson. Robert Downey Jr.
Anything, anywhere, anytime. That's our motto. Well, it would be.
If we actually existed.
That's right.
But we don't.
Air America.
How does this movie make you feel? So don't even tell me yet when the first time you saw it was. Just when you're watching this movie starts, you watch through the whole thing, movie ends. How did you feel? Bo, how does this movie make you feel?
I was happy. I've always enjoyed this movie, so it wasn't a surprise to me going in that I was going to be happy having watched it again.
Nice. Pat, what about you? How does this movie make you feel? It's got planes and flying things, so I know you're going to like most of it, but...
Yeah. When the curtain called on it, I felt conflicted. After watching this movie.
Okay.
It was the first time I'd seen it. And yes, the planes were awesome. The air sequences were great. Everything from him, like hovering the helicopter in front of the truck driver, yelling at him, to, some of the planes, him crashing the plane and then crashing the plane inside the other plane and all that stuff. was great. I loved the airplane thing, and but I felt conflicted because I wasn't sure that this movie knew what it was trying to be. And if the movie knew what it was trying to be, I was kind of torn in two directions. So I'll leave it at that, and I'm sure the conversation will flow. But I felt conflicted. There was a lot I very much liked.
Okay. That's going to be interesting. I want to find out more about that as we start to talk, because that's kind of, I'll be curious to see if you and I are conflicted for the same reasons.
Okay.
So, same thing for me. As I'm watching the movie, I'm having fun with it. It's Mel Gibson, it's Robert Downey Jr. There's a lot of other great, character actors in this movie. So, for that respect, and just the stuff they get themselves into, it's a fun movie. It is a fun movie. Without going too much further into a critique of it, or getting too deep into the conversation before we get started with that point of it, is I think I too had some questions about what's the purpose of this movie. And I know sometimes with a movie where it's just fun and it's funny and it's, you don't need to harp so much on what is its purpose, just enjoy the movie. But I did feel like this movie had a purpose, and I'm not sure that it was hitting the purpose it had intended. So I think I will also say I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. But when it was done, I did find myself going, all right, I don't know. That was a fun watch, but I don't know how I feel about it now that it's over. Mm-hmm. So, and I will say too, this was the first time I had seen it. So, Bo, it sounds like you had seen this one before.
Oh gosh, tons of times.
Okay.
Like this is appointment viewing. This was on the list of movies when I met my wife. This was on a list of movies that she had not seen that I felt she had to see.
Oh, nice.
Cool. All right. Well, we're going to tread lightly because it was like date night movie.
No. Don't. In fact, speaking of, because we're in because the movies we're talking about the next couple of weeks are war movies, I went to the Friendly Fire podcast to see if they had covered any of these.
Mm-hmm.
They have done Memphis Belle. They have not done Air America yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you listened to the Memphis Belle one?
I have not.
Okay.
I purposefully avoided it. I did not want their opinion to color mine.
Yeah.
But I plan to listen to it tomorrow.
Okay. Well, let's talk afterwards, because I might have out pedanted the pedants on that one.
Ooh, fun.
Not Memphis Belle, but I might have to call the Friendly Fire guys out a little bit.
Okay.
All right.
So I'm just saying. Okay.
No, that's fine. I like it. But yeah, I've seen this movie tons of times. I enjoy it.
Now you said it was on a list of movies that you wanted to show Donna that she had never seen before. Has she since seen it?
Yeah.
Okay. And
she did
how
not
does she feel
join
about
me
it?
in this rewatch. It was not something she felt she needed to see again.
Okay. Did she enjoy it the first time?
Sort of. I wouldn't say it. It didn't. It's one of those that I think I may have built it up too much.
Okay.
Before she saw it, so that may be on me.
Okay.
But
yeah. Right. Cool. All right. Well, so this question, and maybe think of it just slightly differently based on, Bo, you've obviously seen this many times before. Pat and I, this is our first viewing of this. So my next question for us is, what will you remember about this movie? And you can feel free to bring in, what scenes did you enjoy, or what was a favorite scene, or what is going to stick with you? What's memorable about this movie now that you've seen it once, or now that you've seen it again and saw it a whole bunch of times before that?
So many things for me. So maybe you guys should go first.
Okay. Yeah, Pat, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I'll remember the planes, and I'll try and keep without just babbling on. But I'll remember the planes. I'll remember that cool air sequences. And if you like flight, there's a lot to like in this movie. I'll also remember it tries to take Air America, which, what was it? They were it was a front for the CIA, I think, originally, which they get into in this. And to be honest, I haven't studied it much, other than it's kind of one of those things that you've always heard about, sort of like what was that company in the 50s, the whatever fruit company that was the front for the CIA, that they ran all sorts of things out of Latin America. Anyways, it's kind of one of these legendary names that you've always heard about. I haven't.
So like Universal Exports.
Well, that was James
from
Bond.
James Bond.
That was James, but it
Right.
was
No, but I mean it's the same. Like
it is. But you've heard of it, right?
It was the I looked it up real quick.
Okay.
It's the United Fruit Company.
The United.
That was it.
There it is. United Fruit, Universal Export. Yeah, it is, and it's like it's a front for whatever. And but it's one of those topics that after seeing the movie, I'm like, yeah, I'd like to get a couple, 2 or 3 books about this and just see what is available to study about it and find out about what's really behind it. So I guess those were my 2 takeaways. Is 1, man, planes are pretty cool, and 2, I wonder what the real Air America, that we can study about. I wonder what sorts of things they did, So that's all. Those are my takeaways.
Okay. I think for me, takeaways for me are, Pat, I think we're going to be very similar on this one. I think it was, some of the flying sequences. It was, I love the scene where Robert Downey Jr., they're flying into a trap. They're flying into a setup, and he's going to be the fall guy for these other, the guys that are kind of in charge of the Air America portion of this. And as he realizes that, he's running out of fuel and he's got to land somewhere. And that whole segment where he lands and kind of crashes himself into his previous wreck, just to hide his plane so they can't find him. I thought that was great. But the different flying sequences, and I kind of enjoyed the banter back and forth between Robert Downey Jr. and Mel Gibson. And really, this is typical Robert Downey Jr. character. I mean, I don't know that I want to say he doesn't have a huge range, but you kind of know. I mean, I do feel like sometimes you kind of know what you're going to get with a Robert Downey Jr. character. It's going to be pretty similar. There were definitely times where I'm watching this and I'm going, yeah, that's pretty much Tony Stark. I mean, a lot of that's Tony Stark, and pretty much every movie I've ever seen him in, I feel like it's different degrees of Tony Stark. So, maybe that's just him as Robert Downey Jr. and it doesn't change all that much, but just kind of his interactions with everybody. He's always fun to watch no matter what movie he's in. So I enjoyed that part of it too. So I think some of that, I think some of those pieces are what I will take away from it, without getting into any of the critiques or negatives or anything like that. I think the flying sequences, I think, just some of the funny situations they get themselves into, whether they're, truly funny or not, in terms of what's going on around them. But, stuff like that. I think that's what I'm going to take away from is the flying sequences and Robert Downey Jr.'s character. So, Bo, what have you got? Obviously, this is one that you really enjoy. So you mentioned the scene where he lands the plane in the plane wreck, which is awesome. The things that have always stuck out of this movie, and it's because I've seen it a lot. So I think what sticks out for me is a little more like little things, like the lounge singers singing "Horse with No Name." Like that is something that I will always remember. Like when that song comes on, that's what plays in my head. When you first get to Laos and they sort of show you the what these people are doing, and they show them dropping the pigs out of the back of the plane and the parachutes engaging and all the squealing of the pigs flying through the air. That has always cracked me up. The whole shtick about, and you are currently not standing in the second largest city in the whole country of Laos. Just that whole "we're not really here" aspect of it. Always something stuck in my head too. Yeah. So here's a question that I guess kind of this may go along more with, it sounds like Pat and I have a few things to say about this, and Bo, you might not quite as much, but I'd be kind of curious. So actually, Bo, I'm going to ask you to go first on this one. What doesn't work for you with this movie? You've said you've seen it a lot of times. You like this one. It's appointment viewing for you. It was on your list to share with your wife. Is there anything about this movie that does not work for you or falls short for you?
The end, actually.
Okay.
Even though they do put the placard up, it sort of tells you what happens to some of the characters. I think it ends sort of oddly. And I feel like they, and I understand the plot device. It's to show growth in Mel Gibson's character. But really the only reason that he had to dump all of his guns was because at no point did anyone ask how many people they were going to pick up. At no point does she say, "I've got 300 people standing next to me. Like, it feels like little things were left sort of that didn't need to be. Something else I was thinking of.
I was going to ask if you while you're thinking, did Mel Gibson have a character arc, or was it just kind of revealing of who his character kind of was?
I would agree. I think they reveal it in such a way as it makes it look like there's growth, because Robert Downey Jr. expects that he's going to want the guns as opposed to not. But I feel like, I don't know that I would call it a true arc. There's something else, but I'm not gonna. Oh, the fact that Nino, the restaurant guy, was in on the whole opium deal. Like, I don't think he needed to. It was an extra guy, but somehow Nino's involved, and he has to pay the same price because X, Y, Z, whatever's going on. Like, they couldn't have just written that scene for the general and the major to deal with. Brought an extra person in, and it just made the story not as concise.
Yeah.
But again, it's little things. Part of it's because I've seen it so much. Like, I get a little pedanty with this one.
Yeah.
So, how about you guys? It sounds like there's a lot you guys weren't feeling. So,
yeah, Pat, go for it.
Well, I struggled with the dichotomy that was in the movie, and I'll say this: it was almost like a Lethal Weapon-esque movie, but it was set within the war in Vietnam. And as opposed to where Lethal Weapon, there were some gritty parts of Lethal Weapon. I mean, obviously, actually the first two, they all kind of had their gritty points to them. I mean, it was definitely an adult movie, and people lost their lives, and you saw a seamy side of life and everything. But they struck a balance between that and, the good guys win, and, someone gets shot to pieces, and, he's suicidal, but still, and maybe this is kind of insidious, but somehow they're able to kind of make a joke out of it, kind of thing. And you're able to explore that and see his character arc and so on and so forth. And that's what makes the Lethal Weapon movies so fun. In this one, I don't think they struck a good balance between that, because there were aspects of it that were very Lethal Weapon-esque. Okay, in one breath, they're into some kind of plane chase and things are getting shot up to pieces and they're going down and all this kind of stuff. And then in the next breath, they're all sitting there getting drunk because they're, this life they're living is taking such a toll on them. And he's, shooting up his mini golf course, because, this guy's burnt out. And then they lost another friend. And it's not like, oh, shucks. I mean, they're visibly upset by that. And then you get, okay, there's the guy running the drugs. And, in one breath, they make that general guy kind of, he's the real mustache twirling bad guy, like right out of Lethal Weapon.
Who, don't forget, wants a Holiday Inn.
Yeah. And then, so you got the humor, but in the same token, you've got this underpinning of this is all set within Vietnam. And, we've met, all the movies have come, so it's not like it was just party time. And so I think it kind of falls a little flat because we're setting this rip-roaring adventure and yeehaw, well, right in the middle of the Vietnam War. And it's kind of, and then they show, and that's the thing, they don't go full on Lethal Weapon where it's like a fun adventure, or even, whether you thought it was a good movie or not, Flight of the Intruder, where there's some serious undertones to that movie. They've got the humor and the, right up to the end where, oh, doggone it, all right, bring the people on board, I'll throw the grenade into my gun running and all this kind of stuff, and off we go, and what the heck. But then you juxtapose that with these guys are all sitting around, they're not healthy, they're not all right in the head, they have very poor outlooks on life. They bring in the senator on the fact-finding mission, and they keep him in the dark, and so that's kind of like a little bit of the humor, sort of like right out of Die Hard. Well, we need some more FBI guys. But then this guy is making decisions about the conduct of the war, and he's got some serious points too. Like all of a sudden he's completely lost, but then he's asking these really serious questions. Like maybe he's trying to figure it out. And that was like a big problem with the Vietnam War, is no one really knew how to fight this, so I guess that's what I struggled with, was that dichotomy. And I guess what would I have done differently? Okay, decide what kind of movie you're making. If it's going to be a rip snorting adventure, then just go with that and drop all the stuff about how these guys are struggling and, alcoholic and all this kind of stuff. Leave that out. Just go for full on fun. Or make it a more serious movie, okay, and show us get rid of the fun and the all the little attempts at the humor and all that, and show how these guys are trying to cope. Why are these guys so burnt out? I mean, they didn't really even examine that. Okay, yeah, their friends are dying, but you don't spend any more time with them trying to comfort families or try to, anything other than, we lost another one. We're all going to face One Direction in the pilot briefing room and growl at the Air Force guy because he just doesn't, quote unquote, get it. But that's it. Now we're off back to our gun running thing and our drug thing and all this kind of stuff. And so it was kind of like, where are we going with this movie? Because you're not, you got a foot in both doors. And, are we exploring Mel Gibson and who his character is? Or are we exploring Robert Downey Jr. and his supposed character arc? So anyways, that's kind of that's what I struggled with the movie. And so there were some fun parts, and I really enjoyed the fun parts, but there was enough of the other thing. It was like, well, how am I supposed to feel about this? I mean, you got to pick one or the other.
Well, to quote Ghost, ditto.
Oh, shoot. I stole your thing. I'm sorry, man.
No, not at all. Not at all. I think those are some of the same problems that I had with it. Again, like, fun movie. It was fun to watch. I don't feel like at any point I was sitting through this movie like, you know what? I'm not entertained. This was a movie that as I'm watching the movie, I'm like, I'm entertained. I have some issues with the movie, but it's just more of I just, as you said earlier, I'm just not sure if this movie knows what it really wants to be. And that's the only real problem I have with it. Will I go watch this movie again? Probably not, but I don't regret having watched it this first time that I did. And I think for some of the same reasons I had those issues with it, was as I'm watching it, I'm like, oh, this is a fun movie. It is I got that same vibe too. I'm like, Mel Gibson a little bit is treating this like and maybe that's just, Mel Gibson's character too, is it's got a little bit of a Lethal Weapon. He's kind of a roguish character. I mean, he's obviously way more laid back in this movie than he is in the Lethal Weapon movies. But that was the issue that I got, especially as it got towards the end of the movie and we got more into the gun running piece and the drug part of it, and the senator who's trying to investigate all this stuff. There were times where I'm watching this movie and I'm going, oh yeah, there's a senator that's here and he's investigating. Or it hits the almost very end of the movie. I'm like, oh yeah, there was that one woman that was there and she's like trying to help out the refugees. And it just felt like for good stretches of the movie that whole subplot had just dropped off and that I had kind of lost them for a while. But those subplots to me also felt like they were part of a more serious movie. And that's, I think, to your point, Pat, was I enjoyed watching this movie from the first part thinking, oh, okay, so this is going to be a comedy. But then those subplots, while there were some funny bits and pieces, and maybe funny is not the right word, but there were some maybe comedic elements to those subplots. In watching the movie, I'm like, you know what? Actually, that whole investigation or that woman who's helping the refugees, that's not part of a comedy movie. And I'm wondering if the way this is being handled, is this still too close to Vietnam to really treat it like a comedy? Now, part of my bias in this, and you guys know I've said this before, Good Morning Vietnam is one of my favorite movies of all time. And I think that Good Morning Vietnam, if you in the 80s, which still is not that far removed from Vietnam, if you in the 80s are going to make a movie that gets to the serious aspects of the Vietnam War while also bringing in some humor the way Robin Williams does, I think that movie does it perfectly. I can't think of anything about that movie, at least for me, where that movie misses the mark with being able to balance those two things. I did feel like a few times, especially as it got to the end of the movie, I didn't really notice it so much while I was watching it, but when I got to the very end, The ending was a little weird. The ending was a little quirky, and I felt like there were some times where I was sitting there going, "Wait, hold on a minute." I feel like I don't know whether this was supposed to be a slightly more serious, inspiring take on somebody bucking a corrupt system and saving people in the end, instead of going in with the rest of the people that are just trying to make the money, and or was this meant to just be a comedy the whole time? And I don't know. So I don't know. I got that weird vibe when I got to the end of the movie that I was just like, I just felt like I wasn't entirely sure purpose wise what I had just watched. Again, still entertained by it, but I got that kind of weird feeling of, I don't know if this should have been, maybe this would have worked better if it had not been treated so much like a comedy. That if you had made this a serious investigation of what was going on with that, I actually would be more curious to see that now. Like you said, Pat, I'd like to go find a book about the real Air America and find out more about it, because at the end, when they do put up those kind of title cards at the end of the movie and they tell you what happened to everybody after all this, I'm watching that and I'm going, well, wait a minute, are these the people's real names, and is this really what happened to these people? And is this like the end of Animal House when they're telling us that right. Senator and Mrs. Blutarski are now living happily ever after? And and then I tried to go look it up real quick. And from what I could find is none of the characters' names in here are the same as the actual people that were involved in Air America. So it's a weird, I don't know. It feels like a weird mixture of, we're trying to uncover a piece of history for you, but we're also kind of making fun of it at the same time.
Yeah.
And maybe that's, I don't know. Maybe I'm not reading that right, but that's just the vibe I got after watching it.
Yeah, and I mean, and it might be a little bit asking too much to say have a comedy, because I think of like Hot Shots as a comedy. I think like a Lethal Weapon has humorous elements to it, but it's an action movie, and I think that's, I mean, I wouldn't even say, hey, go full on comedy. I would just say focus on that, drop the subplot of all that serious thing. Have the drug guy, but the general, but just, you're even kind of led to believe that some of those guys were running those things. Like make it a struggle between, make it a struggle between the pilots and that general, something like that. Like drop all the subplots that bring in a little bit of that serious, because as soon as that's there, it's like, I don't know that I should be necessarily enjoying that. Go more like what Lethal Weapon did, or on the flip side, just, rein in some of the humor and light banter things and explore a little bit more of the, that these guys were losing people and, there was some death and, they're really struggling with it. Show a little bit more of that psychological effect of war and really do that justice. Again, I'm going to point to Flight of the Intruder. I don't necessarily think that the Flight of the Intruder is, necessarily like a 5-star Academy Award-winning film. But I think they do a little bit of justice to the topic matter, because there are some moments in that film that you could chuckle at, but there are some very serious moments in that film as well, and it at least kind of does it justice.
There's, what, and that's, now that you say that, the one time that I did during the movie, the one time that I did kind of almost get knocked out of the movie for a moment and realized that something felt a little off to me, was when they're in their briefing room and they mention that one of the guys has died, and the guy's talking and Mel Gibson turns around, he says, hey, you know what, can you take a break just a minute from telling us to be quiet so that we can have a moment of silence? And it was kind of in that moment that I was like, hey, that's a great line. And hey, these guys really care about each other. And it's a brotherhood of pilots. But in the midst of the rest of the movie, it almost knocked me out of my watching experience for a minute. I was like, oh, they're serious. Like they're actually mourning this person. I felt up to this point that this was just kind of a happy-go-lucky kind of deal here. And so I don't know. It just felt like it was a little bit off balance for me.
Yeah. And why would you assume that the Air Force guy is, clueless? And why would you assume that the head Air Force guy is kind of like in on all the drug deals? And it's just it's kind of like they went with the cardboard cutout kind of you know. I mean, that guy that wore the glasses and was kind of the assistant, he was sort of like the guy in Good Morning Vietnam, you know, not Lieutenant Dan, what was his name? And if you do, hello, I'll have you know that Time Life is considering that guy publishing 2 of my jokes. It was like, just, yeah. So anyways, again, I don't want to take too much of a deep dive into to going after the movie, but I just think it was that dichotomy that kind of threw me off a little bit.
Yeah, you're thinking of Lieutenant Steve.
Lieutenant Steve, that's right.
Yeah.
Lieutenant Steve, Lieutenant Dan. I can see that.
Yeah,
they're all lieutenants, so you know.
Yeah. Planes are pretty cool, though.
This movie kind of made me want to go back and watch Good Morning Vietnam again.
Yeah,
sure.
You know, and I think Good Morning Vietnam works so well because, I mean, there were some really, I mean, I suppose you could call it a comedy, but that being said, it wasn't so much a comedy in my eyes. It was almost like a serious movie about a comedian. You know what I'm saying?
Because it really is a drama, and I think that's what it does so well. And I think that's why a lot of people look at that and they say that was really one of Robin Williams' first major, if you want to say like mainstream roles, as opposed to being a comedic role, because it really is a drama, and it really kind of the heart of the movie is there, and you know exactly what this movie is about. But it does give him those times where he can get on the radio and just do his crazy, manic Robin Williams, probably coked out of his mind, bits that he does in his stand-up routines. And it gives him the opportunity to do that. So I feel like that movie, it had a good mixture of, hey, we've got an outlet for this guy to be able to just, you know, open up the valve. And he's got these moments in the movie where he can do this, and it's hilarious. And but then the rest of the time, as he's on the air entertaining everybody, when he gets off the air, he really sees everything that's going on as it really is.
Right.
And I felt like for this movie, and I know part of it too, one of the reasons I'm comparing these two is I think that when they were making this movie, they ended up comparing the two as well, because I know when this movie first was getting developed and filmed and everything else, they were trying to do it in 1985, and they were trying to do it as the first, I believe the writer or the director or whoever it was, said, I want this to be the first comedy about the Vietnam War. And so that was his intention, was to make this, or producer, maybe it was one of the producers, but it was their intention to make this the first comedy about the Vietnam War. And by the time everything got going with it, and they had some setbacks with the casting and everything else, that it didn't get out until after Good Morning Vietnam. And at that point, they're like, somebody already beat us to it. Somebody already did a movie about the Vietnam War that was really funny. And so I think it ended up kind of getting pushed back a little bit to a couple years after Good Morning Vietnam. But so that was one of their intentions. Even if we don't see this as a pure comedy movie, that I think was in the back of their minds, that they wanted to kind of take something and make it a lighthearted look at a piece of the Vietnam War. But I think for me, at least, just this one, while entertaining, I feel like the heart of this movie doesn't really know what it wants to be about. So that's what I got.
Yeah, man.
So, Bo, I'm hoping we're not like destroying one of your favorite movies. We're just
no.
Yeah,
but,
not at all.
And, yeah, I mean, and like I said, I mean, I'll probably watch it again. You know, I mean, you know, and maybe, you know, it's always, you watch something once and you run the risk of remembering it kind of not as it was, but, you know, you can kind of fill in the gap. So maybe you know what I'm saying? I will definitely watch it again. And I mean, the plane sequences were great, and it was great characters and actors and all that kind of stuff. So,
yeah. All right, I got one question left for us here, and then we can go on into our 3 questions. That we have a 3 question segment. My last question for you here, and this is to kind of get at the characters themselves in this movie. In terms of the characters themselves, so don't think about the actor. Think about the characters that you watched in this movie. Which of these characters would you want to go grab a burger with? Or a cup of coffee or whatever you want. But I think at the time I wrote this, I was thinking burgers. So if you're going to go sit down and have a burger with somebody and talk with that character, who would it be?
I'd probably go with the aid worker, just because she seemed to be the most down to earth. The other guys, yeah, I don't know. Be kind of hard to. They seem like a rather insular group. You know what I'm saying? So
I want to hear Billy Covington's other stories.
Yeah.
I mean, he was suspended. We saw the one thing he did, right? We saw the helicopter yelling at the trucker, but there's more to that guy. Like, he sabotaged other things. I think those stories would be worth a burger.
Good point.
If it was actor, now see, as I was thinking about this, I was like, oh, the one actor in this movie that I'd sit down and have a burger with. I always loved Lane Smith's Perry White when he was in the Lois and Clark TV show. It was probably one of my favorite characters in that whole show, and I loved his character as the lawyer in My Cousin Vinny. So related to that stuff, I probably would have picked him. The one that I think would have probably the most fun stories would be, and I don't remember the guy's name. I was trying to look it up real fast. I do not remember his name. Do you remember the name of the guy? And maybe they didn't mention his name. The guy who was helping do some of the drops, and actually when they did one of the first drops, he fell out of the plane.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I couldn't even tell, like, part of me couldn't even tell, did he do that on purpose just to freak out Billy?
Yeah, I think they were hazing it.
It's possible.
Okay, that's what I figured. Yeah, that's what I figured. But that guy's if that's true, that's the assumption I was going off of. If that's true, that guy is hilarious. That guy was willing to jump out of a plane just to haze somebody, just to give the guy a hard time. And like, I feel, and he's half the time he's just sitting back there, just waiting for somebody to tell him something. The stuff that guy sees and the stuff that guy has probably done, I'd buy the guy a burger, just to sit down and hear some of his stories.
Yeah. That was a cool scene.
Because I tell you what, I'm not jumping out of a plane. I don't care how much I'd get a laugh out of somebody.
Coming from the guy that jumped out a window.
Yeah. See, windows and planes, that's very different.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I'll go to Florida and I'll visit NASA headquarters, but I'm not going up in a space shuttle and spacewalking or anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's very different. It's very different.
Got it.
No, I'll jump out of a window as long as it's on the first floor.
That's right, because I know how you are in space.
Yeah, no.
Which, as you get into the expanse, we need to discuss that a little bit more too.
There have already been some moments.
I was gonna say. Yeah. I don't
between and my lovely wife knows me well enough that when we've been watching The Expanse and we watched the Apple TV Plus one For All Mankind,
right?
Oh, so good.
We've been watching all these space shows over the last few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
She knows well enough that if something like that happens and somebody there's a moment in the For All Mankind when they're in space, but they're on the surface of the moon, and there's a crater involved.
Okay.
And you get just like more than a few meters down in this crater, and they don't exactly know how far it goes down.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, this is like 5 of my worst nightmares all together in one. And because, I mean, bad enough to be floating out in the darkness of space, but you're kind of like, you've got much lower gravity, and you just would be floating down into the darkness of something. And eventually you'd probably land. I would imagine you're not going to just fly through to the other side of the moon, but eventually you'd land. But it would just be pitch black the entire time. And Sharon just looks over and she's like, You're not having a good time with this, are you? I'm like, no. Nope. You would never catch me. Don't ever worry about me leaving Earth and going somewhere else. You would never catch me doing any of this.
That's outstanding.
Mm-mm.
Well, off the air,
sir.
We'll have to find out where you are in the Expanse, because I'd love to.
Just finished the first season. So,
okay. Oh, all right.
Yeah.
All right.
So I'm sure we'll be getting into some other good stuff. I have another TV show to talk to you guys about if you haven't seen it yet. So
all right.
We'll go from there if we get a chance to. All right. Do we have anything else we want to say about Air America?
I'll focus on the fun. I'm glad I finally saw it, and I think I'll definitely plan a rewatch, at least parts. I'll definitely check out some of those scenes.
Yeah, I mean, I'll echo that too. It was a fun movie. I definitely had a few issues with it, but that didn't stop it from being a fun movie, and I was entertained when I watched it. So I'm good with this one.
Right on.
There we go. So very, very quickly, before we go into our 3 questions, if we were to give this movie a rating out of 5 parachuting pigs, how many pigs would you give this movie? I'm gonna give this one a 3. I was entertained, but I did have some problems with it, so I am gonna give this movie a 3 out of 5 parachuting pigs.
What do you say, Bo?
I'll say 4.
Okay.
I enjoyed it. It's something I come back to on a regular basis. The music is good. And it's a story that I enjoy in general.
Yeah. The parts I really liked. The parts that other part was, yeah, I'd probably say like a 3, because I think the average, it would have to be an average, because the idea of planes and some of those scenes, I'd be like 5. That's awesome. I mean, the guy falling out the back, I'd forgotten about that. Just seeing all the different antics with the planes, the yelling at the truck driver with the helicopter. I mean, all that stuff was fantastic. So, I mean, I'd say all that stuff. If I just watched those scenes, I'd say 5. But then that whole, all the points that I brought up before, I'll be concise, would drop that considerably down. So I would say probably an average of 3. I think that would be fair.
Okay.
But I don't want to hurt Bo's feelings, so I'd probably say 4. I'm just...
You don't have to worry about my feelings. I'm not going to be hurt.
Hey, man. Hey. I worry about your feelings. I care. I care.
And I appreciate that, Patrick.
Yeah,
I do.
There you go.
All right. Well, let's jump into our 3 questions then.
He asks each traveler 5 questions. 3 questions. 3 questions.
It's impossible to answer.
Impossible because you don't know the answer.
Nobody could answer that question.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions. I want to have them answered immediately.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
All right, 3 questions this time around. Question number 1. What is your favorite helicopter scene in a movie or TV show?
Oh, and a TV show? Oh, rats.
Yeah.
I don't think I can keep it to top 3 in honorable mentions, John. Sorry.
All right.
When you said TV show, you made it sound like that locked in something for you. What was it? I must know.
What did it lock in?
Yeah.
I just didn't know that all that stuff was suddenly open.
Oh, okay. I thought there was something that just popped into your head from a TV show.
Well, yeah, that too. Go ahead, Bo. What's your?
He now was like every episode of Airwolf.
I know. That's exactly what I was going to say. Airwolf just fell into place. Yeah.
I was picturing something maybe from the A-Team or something.
Well, and there it is, right? I mean, that's the other one.
Mine is Die Hard. I love that chopper scene with Agent Johnson. And it's not, it's the whole Agent Johnson thing. It's that the older Agent Johnson gets sued because it's like he's back in Nam, and the younger Agent Johnson goes, I was 4, or I forget the line.
Yeah, exactly. That was
basically, he says, no, I was not in Vietnam. And it was just something about it. That scene will always stick in my head.
Mm-hmm.
And because they're just about to just get wasted.
Yeah.
And even, the last line at the end, I think we're going to need some more FBI guys.
Yeah.
Just that whole thing involving that helicopter is just too good.
Gonna need some more FBI guys, I guess.
All right, Pat, were you able to narrow it down?
Yeah, I've got it narrowed.
Okay.
Do you want to go first, John? I mean, I don't want to.
Mine's easy. Well, kind of easy. I did have one that I had considered as a close runner-up, and that is any of the scenes towards the end of Terminator 2. Where you've got the helicopter, kind of the T-1000 is taking control of the helicopter, and especially towards the end where he's chasing the truck and they're going through the tunnels, and he's taking the helicopter through all the tunnels and all that stuff. The helicopter bit at the end of the first Mission Impossible movie.
Okay.
That was a good part. The one I got to go with though is the helicopter rescue in Superman the movie.
Okay.
When Lois Lane is in the helicopter, and that first time he's revealed as Superman to the world, that her helicopter crashes and she's hanging out the side holding on to the seatbelt, and then she drops and he goes flying up and grabs her, and she looks at him and goes, and he goes, "Don't worry, I've got you." And she goes, "You got me? Who's got you?"
Easy, miss. I've got you.
You've got me. Who's got you? I can't believe it. I just cannot believe it. He got her.
That whole scene, that'd be my number one.
Got it.
I mean, I and then I got to back up for just a minute because my other favorite line in that Superman the movie happens right before that. When Superman sees that she's dangling from the helicopter up there, and he's dressed as Clark Kent, and he needs to make a quick change, so he zips through a revolving door and comes out on the other side as Superman. And there's a pimp standing right there, and he goes, "Say, Jim, that's a bad outfit." And Superman just puts up a finger and he goes, "Excuse me," and then he flies off. And that is probably my favorite line in the entire movie.
Definitely, good line.
Say, Jim, whoa!
Excuse me.
That's a bad outfit.
Favorite line in the whole movie, followed by that whole scene of him catching the helicopter and catching Lois Lane.
Nice.
All right, Pat, what was yours?
Okay, if I got to name one, I would have to say the helicopter sequence in Black Hawk Down.
Stay with it!
Super 6-1 is hit. He is hit. Walcott's bird is hit.
That's a good one.
I mean, it's I'll tell you, it's as much as you would ever get a chance to see, they're never going to tell you exactly what that, and I believe it's the 160th Air Regiment or Special Operations. They call them the Night Stalkers. They're the ones that fly all the special operations guys. And I mean, you get a little glimpse of what that's like. And you got the Black Hawks and the Little Birds coming in, and the guys riding on those benches on the sides. And these guys, they basically land on top of a building, and these guys jump off, and then the Blackhawks come in and they fast rope. It shows the guys fast roping in, and I've seen that. I was at an air show once, and I saw guys fast rope off a Blackhawk helicopter, and it's pretty intense. And I'll tell you, when a helicopter comes in, well, they show it all in the movie, but I sure as heck wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of any of that. So it's pretty intense. And I think that it's one of those movies that I keep coming back to those scenes because that's pretty intense in it. And I mean, it just shows the dangers of it too. When those guys started getting picked off, and suddenly you're in this thing and you're in this supposed safety, and now you're zinging around to the earth, and then they're trying to get these guys in to rescue them. So I'd say Black Hawk Down. The runners up, I would say any of the sequences in We Were Soldiers, because that depicts a little bit of what, when the helicopter really as a combat vehicle, and, the whole idea of the air cavalry and revolutionizing, or no, air cavalry, what do they call it? The air mobile, the idea of an air mobile force. And they show a little bit of that in We Were Soldiers. And I like that one as well. And then, yeah, I mean, you introduced TV shows. So, yeah, I mean, let's just say Airwolf. I mean, there's some really great stuff in Airwolf. Mm-hmm. The A-Team, I mean, the idea that a show, you can have a helicopter chase and all that is pretty exciting as well. And then finally, I guess I would say MASH. I mean, because that image stuck in my head as a kid is that sad, sad music. And seeing these guys fly these helicopters in. And, just with, and as a kid watching that and not fully comprehending, like, why are they playing the sad music? Like, I don't get it, and then having my folks begin to tell me, well, it was set in the Korean War, but, here's the thing. And then you realize kind of, it's not all, nothing against it, but it's not all John Wayne and off we go and adventure. I mean, it was like, that was kind of, as a kid, that's where it starts to dawn on you that, well, okay, well, this is serious kind of thing. So I would say that you asked for one, I gave you 5, but I'd say those are the top little helicopter things. But I'd say the number one was the launch sequence in Black Hawk Down.
Nice. That is a good pick. I am going to throw out one more runner up because I was thinking about it earlier, then I forgot about it, and it just now came back again. I have to throw this one out here. Batman the movie from the 60s.
Yes.
The helicopter sequence where he goes down on the ladder and he comes up with the shark on his leg and he's got to get the bat shark repellent.
Yes.
I cannot let that one go without having that one get mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Robin, bring down the bat shark repellent. And then I love that there are other options there. But the shark repellent is not the only one.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding.
He's always prepared, and that's why he's Batman.
Batman. Oh my gosh! And I just forgot about Bond. How many Bond films have fantastic?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the helicopter chasing Spectre.
Yeah.
And then there was the other one, and I want to say it was Roger Moore, where he chases down Blofeld when Blofeld is Blofeld has the remote control, and he's trying to like destroy the remote control thing. Then he picks him up and drops him in the smokestack. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of good helicopter sequences out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Someone's got to make a compilation video on YouTube.
There you go.
All helicopters everywhere.
All helicopters all the time.
Question number 2: if you could learn to fly one kind of vehicle, what would it be?
I want to learn to fly an airplane. So,
okay, you have a specific model?
I'm gonna be realistic. I want to learn to fly an airplane, so I'm gonna learn whatever trainer they'll put me in that I can learn to fly an airplane.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll keep it like that.
All right. Fair enough.
Otherwise,
if you could learn,
Otherwise, I'll go off for the next 6 hours on all my favorite kind of planes. So,
that's fine.
Yeah. So
we could just go. We could take a field trip up to the museum in Oshkosh.
Yes.
And just go and that one and that one and that one and that one and that one. And that one.
My daughter had a shirt that says, "I want to pet all the dogs," and that's very much me. I want to fly all the planes.
I want to fly all the planes.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm gonna see if I can find you that shirt.
Yeah, that's right.
Bo, what about you? If you could learn to fly one kind of flying vehicle, what would it be?
I would love it to be a plane that has a true vertical takeoff and landing.
Oh, cool.
Something, because I want to be able to land it pretty much wherever I want.
Yeah.
And so it's got to be able to do its thing. So yeah, that's what I got.
Before I do mine, I will say I was asking some of these questions of my family, and Nora thought that this question, and I was like, well, that's okay. You can take it to that direction too. She thought this was fictional vehicles. And so she chose a broomstick for a Quidditch match.
Well played. Well played.
And she said, then if I could have a second one, it would be Mr. Weasley's car.
Oh my
fair.
gosh.
Okay, cool. I can go with either one of those. Those are good.
Okay, well, I want Sirius Black's motorcycle, and tell your daughter I'm possibly one of her biggest fans.
Okay. Right, I will let her know. She is. So I mentioned earlier when we went to C2E2, she dressed up as the Mandalorian as her costume. Tomorrow at school, today as kind of their first day back after a little bit of a longer weekend, their first day back was pajama day. Okay. Just to kind of ease the kids back into it. Tomorrow is either like sports day. I think it was something like sports or professional day, like something you wanted to do when you grow up, or it was something you wanted to be or do when you grow up. Or if you wanted to wear a sports jersey, you could do that. And so she is wearing her Mandalorian costume to school tomorrow because she said, well, I want to be a Mandalorian bounty hunter.
Of course.
Nice.
So that's outstanding. You do whatever you want to do, but hey, I want to make this clear. No disintegrations.
Right.
You may use any methods necessary. No disintegrations. So my answer would be, I mean, you know me, I'm kind of the Rocketeer nut. So
yeah.
I'm going to go with the GB Model Z from the Rocketeer.
Awesome.
Now, what I would like is I would like them maybe to slightly redesign the plane, because from what I've heard, it is a terrible plane to fly. Only because of how much you cannot see. Because of where the cockpit is positioned, more towards the back of the plane. I have heard from people who have flown this plane that it is very difficult to fly because your visibility is not great.
The originals,
so that would be the only thing.
The originals back in the 30s had some real wicked flight characteristics too. It would.
That's what I heard.
Yeah, I mean, all the pictures of it, it's just like, here's the GB flying, and here is it into the runway, and that body right up there, that burning thing, that's the body that got thrown. And it's like everyone. Right. But there's a guy, I think did I ever share that? There's a guy that built one, and he like improved it, and he would fly it. It was about 10 years ago at all these air shows. And there's some really cool modern videos of him up with one and flying it around and doing all sorts of acrobatics and stuff.
Yeah, I think I don't know if you ever sent me the video, but I remember you telling me about that.
Yeah, it's
so
cool
if I
stuff.
could, I mean, if it was like a thing where you could like, matrix it into the back of my head and I would be an expert at it right away, then sure. I would think it would be a really tough one to learn on. But if you could just like download it into my brain, then I'd be good with that.
Yeah.
All right, question number 3. Robert Downey Jr. is, I mean, for an entire generation of people, he's Iron Man. So what is your favorite pre-2008, before Iron Man came out, what is your favorite pre-2008 Robert Downey Jr. movie?
I like U.S. Marshals. He was fun in that one.
He's good in that one. I do like that one. That was actually one of my runners-up.
Okay.
Bo, do you have a favorite of his from before 2008?
It might be Air America, if I'm being honest.
Cool.
I had to jump back in time just a little bit to a movie that we have done on the podcast. It's been about 3.5 years ago now. But I got to jump back to Derek Lutz in Back to School.
There you go.
So I got to go with that one.
Mm-hmm.
And I did, if anybody wants to, I did go look it up because I figured, I'm going to mention this, so why not? So Back to School came out in 1986, so we did that one in 2016. If anybody wants to go back to it, it is episode number 83, When You Have No Class, Back to School 1986. So if you want to go back to that one, go look for our episode number 83, When You Have No Class. All right, well, that's going to do it for Air America for us. So thank you for being here with us as we talk through this one, as we started off our planes and automobiles month. Pat's probably favorite month of the year so far.
Yeah.
As we got past the love story movies, so we could get to the things Pat really loves. So that is going to be the rest of our month, is the planes and automobiles month. We've got coming up next time, episode number 289, Memphis Belle. And then after that, we've got Days of Thunder and Cadillac Man will finish it off for us. And if you're looking to get ahead by viewing some of these movies, maybe trying to go find them at your local library, or if you've got a copy, coming up in April, that is our action adventure month. That is Dances with Wolves, Hunt for Red October, Navy SEALs, and Rocky V. So if you're looking to get ahead, those are about our next 7 or so movies from now up until about episode number 295. And I keep saying this, but at some point we got to figure out what we're doing for episode number 300 here. So that is very quickly approaching. All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for being here with me.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
An adventure as always. So everybody be excellent to each other, and we will see you back. Go watch some good movies. We'll see you back here next time for Memphis Belle.